Welcome to the Endo Kids Podcast, the podcast where we help families navigate the ups and downs and in-betweens of growing up healthy. I'm Dr. Mehra, the founder of Endo Kids Concierge and a pediatric endocrinologist, and my co-host is Dr. Lindsay Waldman, who is also a board-certified pediatric endocrinologist. We are here to break down the science of hormones, share real stories, and answer the questions parents wonder about the most. So whether you're worried about growth, puberty, thyroid, or just want to understand your child's development a little bit better, you're in the right place. We believe every family deserves answers, support, and a caring partner in their health journey. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's tackle this topic together today. Hi, it's Dr. Mehra. I'm your host for the Endo Kids Podcast. And today I'm here with Dr. Ritu Saluja Sharma, who is an emergency medicine and lifestyle medicine physician. And I would love to introduce her to you and tell you about her journey and what she specializes in, and really her focus on nutrition and lifestyle overall. So, Dr. Saluja Sharma, welcome to the podcast, and please give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm an emergency room physician. I've been practicing in the ER for over 20 years, but about 5 years ago, I got a second board certification in something called lifestyle medicine, which focuses on disease prevention and reversal, which is typically not the focus of our healthcare system. So our healthcare system, I think a lot of the times the focus is on disease management, not helping people prevent and reverse disease. So I started helping adults to lower their blood pressure and their cholesterol and their blood sugars, and potentially to help them reduce their medication loads. And it's been this progression. Then I started, after working with individual adults, I started doing corporate programs so I could reach more people, because I found that just working one-on-one with people was wonderful, but there were so many people that couldn't access that type of help. And so I started working with corporations and school systems and providing my programs to bus drivers and teachers and construction workers and to lots of people. And it's been pretty amazing. I've been doing that for the past couple of years, helping people to really transform their health through really using the power of food and changing their mindset about food, and also creating positive other lifestyle habits. And then that has led me to expanding my focus to children. So with working with the school systems, there was a lot of interest in bringing my programs to kids. And so I just finished writing a 3-part book series for children and families to teach kids about nutrition and to help them create a positive mindset about food and their health. So the idea is to help kids and families to make healthier choices, which could potentially change the trajectory of kids' health for their entire life.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. And a lot of our podcast has also been focused on nutrition, weight management, not eating well, and not gaining weight, and then overweight. So the whole spectrum. And so I want to ask you, what was that pivotal moment that sparked this shift from emergency medicine to lifestyle medicine? Was it the patients that you saw in the emergency room and their chronic illness and diabetes? As an endocrinologist, I know that's what I have seen throughout my practice, and a lot of my focus has also been on prevention because of the end stage that we see. So what was it for you?
I think it was a combination of things. For years, when I was practicing in the ER, I would see adults and patients suffering with conditions that could likely have been prevented and could potentially even still be reversed. But people were not getting that help to help them prevent and reverse some of these conditions. And more, I would see people come in who are younger and younger with some of these conditions. So conditions, just like you were saying, type 2 diabetes, I would see kids with high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and so many younger people with cancer. And there's just more and more, you just see people suffering. And then I personally experienced that I was having some medical challenges. I wasn't feeling my best. I was really, for a few years, I was struggling. My energy wasn't great. I was having dizzy spells. Like, I just wasn't feeling well. And then I went to see my doctor and I didn't really get any answers. And that sort of led me on this path of, I know I'm not feeling well, and even if my labs look okay, there's something not right, and I want to figure out what that is. And that's when I started studying lifestyle medicine. I started studying functional medicine, And it really changed my own life. I changed the way that I eat, my physical activity, the way that I manage stress, the way that I prioritize sleep. I started making all of these changes, and it absolutely dramatically changed the way that I felt. And then that was really a pivotal moment for me, because at that point I was like, if I didn't know this, and if I had to do all this research in order to empower myself to feel better, I know most of my patients are not getting this. And so then this is why I decided to bring lifestyle medicine to others and to teach people what I learned and to help them in that same way.
Yeah. And for listeners unfamiliar with lifestyle medicine, how would you explain it? And why do you think it matters? And then you mentioned a little bit about your own journey. But first, start us off with, what is lifestyle medicine?
Yeah, so lifestyle medicine focuses on preventing and reversing our most common chronic diseases through 6 pillars of our health. So, what we eat, and that's eating mostly whole foods and eating mostly plants, increasing our physical activity, better managing our stress through mindfulness, prioritizing sleep. So that's both improving the quality and the quantity of our sleep, understanding that relationships are fundamental for our health and longevity. And so prioritizing that, and then reducing risky substances. And that means drinking alcohol only in moderation or not at all, and not smoking. And when you make small positive changes in each of those pillars, it can help us prevent and reverse many of our most common chronic diseases. It's been estimated that about 80% of heart disease, 80% of type 2 diabetes, 80% of strokes, so many of our most common chronic diseases could be prevented through our lifestyle. So it doesn't mean that you have to be vegan or you have to change everything in your life, but making small positive changes in each of these areas can have a dramatic impact.
And from your experience, what are the most common root causes behind chronic disease?
Yeah, I think there's insulin resistance, our metabolic health. That's like a huge driver of chronic disease. I feel like this is something that personally I didn't really learn that much about. Now, as you as an endocrinologist, obviously your training was very different, but I feel the drivers of poor metabolic health, and that so many people have some symptoms of poor metabolic health. That was something that I feel like I wasn't aware of before, and really like how much our lifestyle contributes to that. Chronic inflammation, that also is a big driver of our most common chronic diseases. And there are things that we can do to decrease the inflammation in our bodies through our diet, through physical activity, through stress, through sleep. So all of these lifestyle pillars can make a big impact in reducing inflammation. Our gut health, right? That has a big impact on our risk of disease and our immune system and our brain health. It has a huge dramatic impact. So I feel like making positive changes to our lifestyle to impact those drivers of chronic disease is life changing. And that's really what I love to teach people, to teach adults, and how to understand those root causes and target those to help them prevent and reverse disease. But then also for families and for children, understanding them not in a scary way, but in an empowering way. That the food that we eat is not just calories, it's also information that drives things that are going on in our body. And so really teaching kids about our metabolic health in a simplified way, but really looking at food and our lifestyle differently. I think it's important to establish those fundamentals, because when we understand the drivers of our most common chronic diseases, it can help us make positive changes that can impact our health for our life.
Yeah. What is one small, realistic habit families can start today that would make a big long-term difference?
So I would say for food, the biggest thing that I would say is to involve your kids, right? So teach them about food, maybe learn about nutrition together, let them help you meal plan. If you teach them about creating a balanced plate, let them help you figure out the veggies that are going to be on the plate, help you meal prep, let them help you cook. So involving your kids in the kitchen, teaching them about food, and creating a positive mindset about food, I think is fundamental. And that one thing I think can really And when we have a positive foundation on how we see food and see our bodies, that can guide us to make healthier choices versus our diet culture. Everything is about numbers and calories and carbs and depriving yourself and health. We get this idea that health is all about numbers on a scale and that you have to restrict yourself in order to be healthy. But I feel like if we change the mindset there, and it's more about using food to help us feel our best and involving our kids and making it a family affair, I think that is really one of the best things that we could do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our culture or cross cultures, I think, is focused on food. So food is a big part of any culture, any society, right? Well, celebrations or birthday parties, events at school, there's always a party, there's always food available. And so I think we've also been in an environment where there's a lot of food available and a lot of different types of food available. And sometimes I find that families are very confused about what is a healthy food or what isn't, right? I mean, if you go to the grocery store, you have so many different types of peanut butter, for example, right? Peanut butter is that healthy? It's got protein in it and it's got some fat in it. But if you look at labels of peanut butter, a lot of them have added sugar, and the same thing for yogurts, right? So when you're talking about lifestyle medicine, you're really talking about whole foods and like fruits and veggies and things. When you go to the grocery store shopping in the perimeter of the grocery store, right? That's really where all the milk and eggs and fruits and vegetables are versus the aisles of the grocery stores. I think it is very confusing for families sometimes to start looking and saying, what is one change that I could make? And even if I involve my child in the kitchen, I want to know what types of food that I should bring to the table.
It's really confusing. And if you look at even today, the dietary guidelines came out, right? The new dietary guidelines. And you just think about in history, the dietary guidelines when we were growing up, and for a lot of adults, for a lot of parents, and what the food pyramid looked like, and what we were taught about what we should be eating. And then that changed dramatically, right? And it's, oh, no, that was wrong. And now instead, before we were told we shouldn't be eating any fat. And now we've gone to the point that, like, there are people that are recommending to put butter in your coffee and that you should be having all this fat. It's so confusing and it's hard to know who to believe. And then these new dietary guidelines just came out today. And again, like a lot of the guidance is so different than what was in the last guidelines. It's really confusing. And this is honestly why I created my programs and my book series for kids and families, because the reality is the science is pretty clear. Like, we should be eating mostly whole foods. We should be eating lots of plants, right? Eating protein, eating healthy fats, eating balanced plates. And our food industry is not helping us either. So our dietary guidelines are very confusing. Our food industry is setting us up to fail. When we look at labels, the way that food is marketed to us, so many things like peanut butter can be marketed as healthy. But again, there's different types of peanut butter and some are healthier than others, right? So the ones with palm oil and added sugar are not the best ones to choose, but the ones made with just roasted peanuts, that's a great option, right? But it's really hard to tell unless you know what you're looking for. And so I think teaching your kids and teaching yourself at the same time, if you're confused about this, I think that's really important. So really having a clear understanding of nutrition, of what should be going on your plate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these are all very good and valid points and things that I've talked to families about for years. But I wanted to shift a little bit and talk about your framework. So you created Head, Heart, Hands, this framework. Can you explain this to us a little bit and tell us how this philosophy came together?
Yeah, so my Head, Heart, Hands method started with my adult programs. So when I started creating my programs for adults, I wanted to create a program where it wasn't just a diet that would help people lose weight, but really help people create meaningful, sustainable lifetime changes. So in order to do that, I think it's a lot of things that are necessary. So the head is learning and mindset. So empowering people to understand about the root causes of their health. So the insulin resistance and chronic inflammation and gut health and nutrition, and like really teaching the science of lifestyle medicine, that when I learned that information, that it was life-changing for me, right? So I felt like if I didn't know it, my patients don't know it. So teaching them all of that empowering information. But at the same time, I think a healthy mindset about food and our bodies is also essential. And that is also a big part of it. And so I have these modules and lessons, and it's talking about really how our thoughts impact our feelings and our actions and our results. So really looking at, as one example, looking at our mindset and how our mindset really drives our choices as well and our lifestyle habits. And then the heart is coaching and reinforcement. So for my adult programs, I have coaching modules. And then I have, for my corporate programs, we have weekly coaching sessions. And that really helps people go from just understanding and learning to then feeling supported and creating new habits. And then the hands is tools, and that's meal plans, recipes. You can know everything. You can know what you should be doing, and you can feel supported. But unless you actually know how to cook brown rice or roasted vegetables or what to make for dinner, because everyone's busy and no one really has like extra time. So, okay, I can know all this, but what am I going to make for dinner tonight for my kids? That's the tools, that's the hand. So that's what I put in my adult programs. And I found that really it was a combination of all of that that was what was needed in order to make long-term change. And that's why I think my programs have been so successful, that some programs may be just learning or some may be recipes, but you really need everything, all of that together to make change. And then that's what I tried to do for my book series, because I initially, when I was asked to write these books or to create resources for kids after working with the school systems, I initially wrote the book and then I thought, that's just the head. That's the learning and the mindset, but I need the heart and I need the hands. And so then that's why I created the book first, but then the workbook, which helps take what you learn and create real life skills like reading labels and picking healthy snacks and deciphering the messages from the food industry that may be misleading and helping you figure out which products may be healthier choices. And then the hands is recipes. And that was a cookbook that I created with my daughter. And the idea was to give families kid-friendly, healthy, family-friendly, easy meals that they could make that could use everything that they learned in the kitchen.
Wow, that's amazing. It sounds out of all those, you think that the hands part is the most difficult. What do you think is the most difficult? What do you think people struggle with the most?
Gosh, that's interesting. I do think it's all of it. Like you need the head first, right? You need to know what to do. You need the mindset. And I think the mindset is a big issue because again, our diet culture really sets us up to fail here. And for many of us, when we really talk about this and think about this and through my programs, people start realizing, what have my thoughts been about food and my body my whole life? And how is that actually impacting my choices and the way that I approach this? So for many people, they restrict themselves, they feel deprived, and then they can't keep it up, right? And then they feel like they failed, and then they give up. And the reality is, it doesn't have to be like that. Like our diet culture makes everything so black and white. It's, you good foods, bad foods, like cheat days and this and that. But really, like, it's life, right? And so the idea is we can't be so hard on ourselves, and the idea is this is a lifestyle. No one's perfect, but we're going to do our best to put as many foods that are going to nourish us on our plate and crowd out the other ones. I don't know. It's a whole different way of looking at food. So I think that's fundamental. And then, the actually making it happen through cooking in the kitchen. That's another big step.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you help people make sustainable changes without overwhelm?
I think there's a few things here. So again, it's mindset, but it's also making one small change. So what we do in my program is every week we celebrate our wins at the beginning of the session, and at the end of the session, we end with one goal for the week. And so one of the lessons is about creating small, sustainable goals. The goal is not, oh, I'm going to lose 15 pounds or, oh, I'm going to reverse my type 2 diabetes. Maybe that's your top goal. But then when you really breaking it down into smaller, doable steps that are realistic, and then concentrating on those and concentrating on small wins. And the goal may not be, like, for example, it's New Year, like it's January, and a lot of people are making New Year's resolutions right now. And a lot of people, their resolutions, they fail. By February, they've given up because maybe they've resolved they're going to go to the gym for 5 days a week or something like that. But if we're making resolutions or goals that are not sustainable for us, then that's going to lead to failure and guilt and shame, but really focusing on small, sustainable habits. So it doesn't have to be these like huge, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour 5 times a week, but maybe I'm going to go for a walk, a 15-minute walk after lunch, 5 times this week. Small habits. And when you start doing these small things first, and then you start feeling better, or I'm going to add more healthy fats to my breakfast, so I'm more satiated. So I'm going to add to my oatmeal, I'm going to have nuts and seeds in it. I'm going to put some blueberries or whatever. I'm going to do this one small thing. And when you start doing these small things and you start feeling better and having more energy, I think the momentum just grows. And that's really the key, is to really start with those small, sustainable steps.
Yeah. So out of these, what do you think, which lifestyle pillar do you think people underestimate the most? Sleep, stress, movement, nutrition? What do you think?
Oh my gosh, that's such an interesting question because they're all so important. And I do think that food is what I focus on the most because it's so powerful. Our food is our most powerful medicine, right? I think food is what I focus on the most, but sleep, just getting more sleep, that can potentially be a way to jumpstart things. Although, actually, to be honest, what I found with a lot of adults who struggle with sleep, sometimes sleep comes last. Like once they've made the diet changes and they're getting more physical activity and they're better managing their stress, then they start sleeping better. So sometimes it takes some of those other things to change first, to improve first before the sleep comes. But I think all of these habits, all of these lifestyle pillars are very much related. So if you're more physically active, that's going to help actually your mental health, and that can maybe help you boost your mood. That can help you potentially better manage your stress. That can help your sleep. It can help you make more positive diet changes. So just going for a walk can have all of these positive influences in these other pillars too, right? So I think that all of these things are interconnected, and it really just takes like picking one that you're going to start with and making something a small change that will help you.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice. The other question I have for you, since I have you here, is, how can parents model healthy habits without feeling like they have to be perfect? Because kids are watching, and parents always feel like they have to be perfect around the kids. But what can they do?
I think that's a great question. And I think it's important that no one's perfect. And I think we have to accept that. And the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is not to have a perfect diet, because if that's our goal, then we're always going to fail. But the goal is to try and do the best that we can. And so I think for parents who may be struggling with their own health, or they want to lose weight, or they want to make changes and they don't want to stress their kids out, maybe do this as a project together, learn together. And it's okay to say, I never learned this when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I ate like this, and now I'm learning how to eat differently. And now I'm learning how to make healthier choices. And I know personally for me, I ate lots of processed food, ultra processed food when I was a kid. And I I ate very differently even until 5 years ago when I studied lifestyle medicine. And I'm very open about that with my kids. Like, I didn't know. And now that I know better, I do better. And I focus on adding in more of the healthier foods and talking to my kids about it and crowding the other stuff out with the idea that, like, we still eat tortilla chips sometimes. Nothing is perfect. We still have some snacks that aren't the healthiest in our pantry, but most of the time what we do aligns with our health. And I think that if, like, we model that where we're not harsh with ourselves, that's going to help our kids too, because our kids will notice if we're harsh with ourselves, if we're unkind to ourselves in the way that we talk to ourselves and think about our bodies. And we want to model to our kids to be kind to themselves. We want to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah, great advice there. When we look at the big picture in terms of pediatrics, and I know you've worked with schools, how can our schools and communities play a stronger role in shaping healthier generations? What have you learned from your work with the school systems? And what do you think they can do?
I think there's a huge opportunity here to improve the nutrition curriculum in schools and school districts. And again, teach kids about nutrition, teach kids to see food as nourishment and amazing and wonderful, not just calories, and help see kids as their health more than just numbers on a scale. And I think that in schools, if we're able to reach kids and teach them these important lessons that I teach adults and that these lessons are life-changing for adults, if we can teach kids these lessons, it can impact them so greatly. So I think there's a huge opportunity here from what I've seen with the school districts a lot. And I've worked with school districts and then also at the state level, looking at some of the nutrition curriculum standards. I think there's a huge opportunity to improve what we're teaching kids, and it can make a huge difference in so many children's lives.
Okay, great. And what's your vision for the future of healthcare and prevention? What would be the ideal for you?
I I believe that everyone should have access to programs like mine. Honestly, like the program that I created that teaches adults about root causes and helps them to prevent and reverse our most common chronic diseases and gives them the guidance, step-by-step guidance and the support and the tools. Like, I think everyone deserves access to that. And unfortunately, that's not something that most people have right now. So I would love to reach more people. I would love for more programs like this to be created where people have this type of help. And then for kids, I feel the same thing. Like, I hope that I can reach kids and again teach kids about food, teach families about food and nutrition, and I think, if we can do that, it can change the world.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So I'm going to ask you a few other questions just about you. So what's one habit that you never skip?
That I never skip. So I walk every day. That's one thing. So whether it's even after breakfast, going for a 15-minute walk, or after lunch, going for a walk, but I try and walk every single day. That's one. I guess I would say I eat mostly whole foods. And that's something that I could never go back at this point because my palate has changed from where it was previously. And I eat mostly whole foods and lots of plants. And I enjoy my food so much more than I used to.
And what's one health myth that you wish would disappear?
I would say that you have to deprive yourself or restrict yourself in order to be healthy. I think that you have to count calories or count carbs. Like, that is absolutely not the case. We're told these messages all the time that you have to choose between being happy and being healthy, and that's actually not the case. And it's possible to be both.
Great. That's a great advice. And then what energizes you outside of work?
What energizes me? I would say my family, being around my kids and my husband and my dog. So that's like number one. And now my parents. And so that's number one. But also, I would say, just the physical activity that I do actually energizes me a lot. So going for walks, or I try and do yoga most days. And let me say, like, when I was younger and single and I had a lot more time, I would go to yoga classes and they would be like 90 minutes and I would whatever. And now it's 30 minutes in my house, like I don't have as much time as I used to, but I still can do these things, a short walk or a short yoga, and those types of even small bursts of exercise are really energizing.
And yeah, I agree with that. I think it's whatever you can get in, actually. And then if listeners remember one message from today, what should it be?
I would say it's never too late to make positive changes to impact your health. So for many of the patients that have gone through my program, or the people that have gone through my program, I've had people that have been able to reverse their type 2 diabetes or come off of their blood pressure or cholesterol medicine. It's possible to make diet and lifestyle changes and to really change your life. So it's never too late to start. But the earlier you start, the better.
Great advice. Finally, I know we've taken quite a bit of your time, but finally, I just wanted to have our listeners know where they can learn more about your work and resources, and we'll link that to our show.
Yeah, absolutely. My website is Head, Heart, Hands MD, and I have some free guides on there that if anyone's interested to learn more about insulin resistance. And then I have my book series. It's called The Wonder of What We Eat, and that's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and lots of stores online. And that's the book, the workbook, and the cookbook. And then I'm also on social media. So I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook, and I try and post regularly to give people health tips and motivation.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are so excited for your work. And I hope that our listeners go to your website and purchase some of your books, because I do think that they're going to be really helpful for people. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Endo Kids Podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more knowledge and a lot more confidence. If you have questions, stories, or topics you'd love us to cover, please send them our way. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to check out our website, www.endokidsconcierge.com, for free resources, guides, and more ways to connect. You're not alone on this journey. We're here to support you and your family every step of the way. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an update.